Oh my goodness, folks, we are about to have an absolute mess on our hands in the stock market. I want to explain exactly what's going on here so you guys are aware of this. This is something that is going to have wide-ranging kind of implications that are going to go way past kind of what people see on the surface, essentially. And so I just want to kind of put all these pieces together so you guys kind of know what's going on out there, what exactly is transpiring, and why all this matters, okay? So, first off, Wall Street Bets, you know, obviously massive community. There's been a stock that has been absolutely probably the most talked about stock ever in the history of Wall Street Bets, and that includes even AMC, is a stock named BBBY, which is Bed Bath & Beyond, all right? Which was, you know, a lot of people thought could potentially go bankrupt, and then all of a sudden, the last like month or two, their stock's gone insane, but specifically the past like week or so, their stock went absolutely through the roof, okay? So everybody's talking about this on Wall Street Bets. A ton of people, and I mean a ton of people, have been flooding in money to this stock over the past about a week or so, okay? Specifically over the past few trading days, which made the stock price of BBBY go absolutely through the roof, okay? And it was trading yesterday, today, you know, well, not really today so much. It was mainly yesterday and the previous day. It was trading 25, 26, 27, even at the peak, like $28 a share, okay? This stock, after hours, is $10. And who knows where I'll be trading at tomorrow. It's possible it reaches single digits tomorrow, okay? We'll see what happens. It is bad, okay? And this has huge ramifications for a ton of folks in the market, because this is such a devastating move, considering how many people have kind of flooded money in this over the past few days, that this is going to end up moving way past just this stock in particular. I want to explain exactly why this is going on. But yeah, this isn't like a small move down, like, you know, 10%, right? When you're talking about 44% after, this stock was already down like 20% today. Oh my gosh, okay, this is like end of the world type stuff. There's people that put major money into this stock, and I'm talking about major money. I grabbed this screenshot just off Wall Street Bets. You know, this person was up to $6 million yesterday at one point. $6 million, and they just sold out. And they've got $2.1 million left. They took a $1.1 million loss on this stock. And that's just absolutely a massive move. They say, I was wrong. I'm out. Yes, I lost big. It's been an honor to YOLO with you. For the first time, I issued a trade after hours through a broker on the phone. It was somewhat surreal. It messed up, or excuse me, it's messed up my summary a little bit, but I'll lose somewhere around 800,000 over the past 2 weeks, and 1.2 million over the last week related to BBBY. I peaked at $6 million account value. I only have the screenshot for 5.4. And they go into kind of, you know, their thoughts on selling and whatnot. They say, I was wrong about the squeeze and the momentum up to, I was right about the squeeze and momentum up to 6 million. I called a down Wednesday, Thursday, and was bullish at the close before after hours disaster. He says, I was wrong about RC, which is Ryan Cohen, which is this individual that's a fairly big name in the stock market. And, you know, word just got out that they sold out of their position. Now, a friend texts me, and I'm still trying to fact check this, okay? But a friend texts me, and they know quite a bit about what's going on, but they had texted me that basically they believe RC had loaded up on puts as well, which would be just even more nasty. I don't know. I got to fact check that more and see kind of what's going on there, okay? All he had to do was stay out of the way. We were blown up at the launch pad. RC has sold his reputation at the market. Only he knows if it was worth it. Obviously, people are going to be pretty furious with this Ryan Cohen individual, okay? Yes, I felt some normal emotions, betrayal, humiliation, despair, but I make the best decision I can and live with the consequences. That won't change, okay? And they go into some more things there. And so this is a huge amount of money, right? This person says, I want to whatever therapist you're seeing, you're handling this incredibly well. And yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, you know, I mean, they were sharing this on Wall Street Bets, this number, like if you're going to do something bad to yourself, like that's the number you call, right? And, you know, that's just, you know, the state of kind of things out there, and it's very ugly. And this is going to go way past just BBBY stock, because the thing you got to understand is, people invest in very similar stocks, right? So if you're in a stock like a BBBY, there's a pretty high probability you could also be in a stock like a GME, an AMC, a BB, stocks like that, right? And so, this stock already is down 7.5% after hours. GME, who knows what the move's down tomorrow? Because you got to understand, I mean, the volume's going to explode for this stock tomorrow. I mean, absolutely explode. The thing you got to understand is a lot of these folks that do some of this activity and get into these sorts of plays, they also margin. It is very common. It is like, you sign up and it's like, hey, I'm going to do these type of plays. Okay, here's your margin account, right? And so they don't just do it with their own money or something. They do it on leverage. Because why just go into a BBBY if you're buying in at 20 and you think it's going to 80 over the next week or 2 weeks or whatever, right? Or 50, like they throw all these price targets out. Every single time one of these stocks goes up a bunch, people start throwing out all types of crazy price targets like, oh, it's going to hit this by Friday, it's going to hit this by next week. So then everybody's in this kind of hype euphoria mode and it's just going up. And so people are like, got a margin. And so next thing you know, the guy that's got $50,000 in actual money, he goes and margins another $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, right? Now, in a situation like we got tomorrow, massive amounts of people are going to get margin calls. And I mean massive amounts of people are going to get margin calls. And it's going to force them to not only sell their BBBY tomorrow, but it's going to potentially cause them to sell in GME or an AMC or other stocks they have in their portfolio in general, right? And so it can have much more wide implications than just, oh, it's just going to be that one stock out there because of margin and the margin calls that are going to come tomorrow. Because that big of a downward move, it's going to take a lot of people's accounts down big time. And think about it this way, right? You might say, well, maybe people will deposit money in so they can get out of that margin call. Here's the deal, okay? I'll just tell you the way it is. Usually if you're going on margin, for the most part, unless you're a super sophisticated investor, which is not most people that were getting in some of these plays, okay? You are getting on margin because you don't have that actual money. If you got $100,000 in your account and you're doing another $100,000 in margin, it's not because you got $100,000 cash and you're like, I'll just do it on margin so I pay interest. Of course you wouldn't do that. Like no one with a brain would absolutely do that, right? You'd much rather do it through actual cash you have because then you don't have to pay whatever interest rate your brokerage charges you, 6%, 7%, 8%, whatever the number is, right? So think about that for a moment, right? So nonetheless, this is going to cause a massive sell-off in a bunch of other stocks tomorrow as well, right? Now, think about how many people are playing calls in this situation. So the people that write the call options, those ones are looking good. They're making their little profits there, right? And the people that own puts are going to make bank tomorrow on some of these stocks. And I mean absolute bank. But the problem is the far majority of folks they're not writing these calls, especially from the retail side, and they're not loaded up on puts. The retail side is loaded up on calls in these stocks. And all their call options are going to expire absolutely worthless. The amount of people that are playing calls in these stocks that are expiring tomorrow, almost all those call options are going to expire literally worthless or, for a penny on the dollar essentially. And so, it's going to literally wipe out like people's accounts because people go super heavy in these call options. And sometimes the way people think is they're like, oh, let's say the stock was at 25 yesterday and they're like, I'm loading up on calls because this baby's going to, by Friday, it's going to, $30 or $35. So they buy something at a $25 strike, a $30 strike, a $35 strike, whatever, right? Because, maybe they didn't have to pay a huge premium on that. And next thing you know, the stock's at 10 tomorrow. Well, they literally lost 100% of their money, right? Even if they bought at a $20 strike, which would have been really conservative for a lot of these folks that are playing this, those people still lost. If you bought at a $15 strike, which is way too conservative for these folks to even imagine, right? If they bought a $15 strike, you're still expiring worthless tomorrow for your call options, okay? And so that's why it's such it's like literally destroys money. And meanwhile, like I said, the puts are going to print. But the majority of people that would have been playing puts in this are not the retail side, man. If anything, that's the Wall Street side or the more sophisticated play there. So, it's just ugly. Now, on the flip side, you think it's just retail that is in some of these stocks. No. I can guarantee you there's some hedge fund money out there. There's some fund money in general that is in some of these plays. And if you think the only ones that like to gamble in the stock market or retail, you are sorely mistaken. There are plenty of others that like to gamble in the stock market as well. And so, this could definitely hurt some funds out there tomorrow that causes more selling pressure. And the thing is, with some of those, it's bigger dollar amounts, right? If a guy with a few $1 million is in a BBBY and goes nearly all in that stock, believe me, there will be some smaller hedge funds and stuff that will play around with some of these stocks as well. And some of the other stocks that are, let's call it adjacent plays, the BBBY, figuring, that one may not be as dangerous, but if BBBY keeps flooding this week, guess what? This stock over here is going to move up and this stock over here, right? And so, yeah, it's not like it's just retail like some people try to make it out to be, okay? Now, an interesting thing is, let's call it like the Burry squad, okay? The Michael Burry squad and, that whole crowd. They've been making an argument recently that they're showing kind of like BBBY, and they're like, see a movement like that? When these stocks like AMC, GME, BBBY, all these others, when they're moving like that, we're nowhere close to a bottom on the stock market, right? And that's what they say, because they're like, until that activity's dead, we can't hit a bottom on the market, right? There's still too much euphoria in the market, okay? Now, my thing is, I look at these stocks, and I'm like, these stocks have been devastated. Like, look at AMC's, high it reached last year around this time. Look where it's at now. Like, look at GME. Like, look at all these stocks, basically. They're massively down, okay? So because the stock moves up for a week or something like that, doesn't really mean much, okay? On the other side, it cracks me up, because a lot of these folks think that you're going to eradicate, you're going to completely get rid of this sort of activity, okay? And I'm just here to tell you, this isn't going anywhere, okay? This sort of stuff you're seeing in BBBY and what you saw in AMC and GME last year and all those sorts of, here's the deal, okay? Just in my time in the stock market, I've been in since, 08, 09, right? I've seen a lot of different groups. Since I was just thinking off some off the top of my head that I remember just being the hype cycle, and a ton of people getting in these stocks, and they went on some crazy runs for a few months or whatever, and then just came crashing down, okay? The first one I really remember vividly was 3D printing stocks. This was in either, it was either in 2013 or 2014. There was a bunch of 3D printing stocks out there. Some of these are still public companies, by the way. Some of them got bought out by other companies. But basically, if you were doing anything in relation to 3D printing, your stock flew to the stinking moon, okay? And a lot of these stocks went up hundreds of percent, some even 1,000% plus in a snap of a fingers. Because everybody, thought like 3D printing was going to take over the world or something like that. And here we are a lot of years later, and 3D printing is still a thing, right? But it's not like it's some massive industry that was game-changing like those stock prices would have led you on. And most of those 3D printing stocks that I remember fell anywhere from 70 to 90% from their peaks. Then I remember, this was either in 2017 or 2018, but it was the Jack Jackson stocks, okay? The Jack Jackson stocks, everybody was talking about, potential federal legalization and getting real hyped and excited about Jack Jackson plays. And actually what it was back then, it was Canada. Canada was about to legalize. And so all these Jack Jackson plays were going absolutely through the roof. Plus, there was some states starting to legalize in the United States as well. So everybody was super hyped around Jack Jackson plays. And those stocks flew up, and Aurora and all the others. There was a ton of them, okay, Canopy. And those stocks went on some epic runs. And now those stocks are pretty much, almost all of them are down 70, 80, 90%. Tilray was the craziest one I remember, where that one was like $300 a share at one point. Then they did a bunch of reverse splits over time to try to make the share price look better. Just insane situation. But that was the next ones. The third ones I remember, this is actually more recent. This was kind of toward the end of 2020, EV stocks. Basically, Tesla was going on this epic run, right? And it took NIO stock along with it. And basically, anything that was EV-related companies, the Nikola's, Rivian, there's so many of those EV companies, like some of them, Lucid, I can't even remember some of them. All these stocks went on this epic run, okay? Anything that was EV-related. It didn't matter what you did. If you just threw an EV in your name, oh my gosh, everybody is so excited about you. And all those went to the absolute moon, and almost all those EV stocks other than Tesla are down 70% plus from their highs, essentially. We know the only extremely legit EV maker out there is Tesla. After that, the only other two kind of plays that I think are kind of legit are BYD and NIO. And outside of that, it's a mess. Let's just call it a mess, okay? And the most recent one is obviously the meme stocks, right? The AMCs, the GMEs, the BBs, the BBBYs, all those sorts of stocks, right? And so this activity is not going to end. If, folks think this is it. This is the one, they're finally going to get it through their heads this time, not to mess with any of this type of stuff again. No, there's going to be the next one, okay? And it's probably not going to be AMC, and it's probably not going to be GME or Bed Bath & Beyond or these. It's going to be some other new stocks in the future. This is the way this goes, and this will always be the game, okay? I live in Vegas. I think most of you guys watching this know I live in Vegas, right? And there's a city that was built on gaming, right? And I'm not talking about the gaming with the controller. And so why do people continue to go to casinos when they know the odds are stacked against them? The reason is because it's fun, one, or because they think they're going to win big, okay? Now, on a given night, the majority of people that exit that casino will have lost money. You're going to have a small group of people that broke even. You have a small group of people that made money, and you have an extremely small group of people that made big money, okay? But most people lose money. And so a lot of people treat the stock market like it's a casino. And that's why these sorts of hype cycles, exciting movements are not going to end, even when a ton of the people will have lost money, right? Because when everybody's getting in is usually right toward the peak, essentially, and that's why it makes this last kind of parabolic move, because everybody's all of a sudden talking about it now, and everybody's like, you got to get in, man. I just made 50%. No, I just made 75%. Get in, get in. And then everybody's telling their friends and their family, and everybody's do-do-do, and everybody's seeing it on all these forums and stuff like that, and everybody's getting in, and then for the most of them end up losing money. A few of the first ones that got in, they exit with a profit. A guy like Ryan Cohen's probably made bank on this whole situation, right? Meanwhile, most people lost a ton of money, right? And it's the same thing as like a casino effect, okay? And so, to a lot of individuals that like to get involved in this sort of activity, it's more of like a fun thing to do. It's kind of like at the beginning of every season, I play some bets on who's going to win the Heisman Trophy. And some of these are very long shots, and I put like $100 on like 5 different players. And, it's like pays some ridiculous amount out if I win. I still have yet to win one of these years, and we'll see. I made my bets recently. We'll see if this is the year I win. But I treat it as fun. I know I'm usually throwing away whatever money I put in it. I think this year I did a $100 bet on each guy, 5 guys. It's $500. I know that was pretty much likely I threw away $500 bill, okay? That's just kind of the situation. But for me, it's fun. And so for a lot of other folks, they kind of view the stock market as like that fun thing to do, where they're going to try to hit it big, right? Now, for a lot of the folks that watch my channel, obviously, you guys are very focused on actually, approaching this from a standpoint of like building your wealth over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And you would much rather be, let's just call it the one that's selling those Heisman tickets rather than the one that is, let's just call it buying the Heisman tickets, right? And so you guys have obviously a very long-term approach that's healthy for the market and looking at companies' income statements and balance sheets and thinking about the business model and where it goes in the future and why a company's going to do good, not based upon like, a hope and a prayer, but based upon, the fundamentals of here's why this is happening, here's why this is happening, here's why this business model is going to grow a lot over the next 5, 10 years. With a lot of these other plays, like there's no business model with those. There's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as like growth. It's kind of like down, 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 and just down and down and down for the business models, right? In almost all those plays. And so, it's just a very different approach in the market. You've got to understand that stuff's not going to go away. Doesn't matter how many times you think they learn their lesson, stuff like that. There's always going to be a new group of folks that want to play the game as well. And there's going to be a new group of folks that, even if they lose time and time again, they're still going to be there to do the thing because it's fun. They view it as fun. I can lose a Heisman thing every single year. And I'm still going to likely go place my bet again next year and the year after because I think it's fun. And that's the way some of these other folks approach the market, okay? That's the way they approach the stock market. And that just kind of is what it is. And it's always going to be there. So if you're hoping like, maybe this is the time it finally ends everything. Nope. And nope. And nope. And in the next crash, it still won't end anything. And in the next crash, it won't end anything. And it will just keep going forever and ever and ever. And don't ever forget that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I actually have a couple of stock market courses absolutely free right now. If you want access to those, check out the pinned comment down there. And basically somebody from my team will be able to get you enrolled into those courses. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to join my private stock group to get access to those. And I think you'll get a lot of value out of those. And I hope you do enjoy those. Much love as always and have a great day.